Okay, so before I leave Cartagena behind, I want to say two things that I forgot to mention. I was staying near Canapote, which is sort of like I won't say like a ghetto, but definitely a more working class area of Cartagena than the first hotel where I was staying in Marbella. And like in that neighborhood, yeah, like I was pretty much like the only white dude. Like I remember there was a little black boy who came up to me when I was leaving the hotel or the family's house, which was the hotel one day, and he like said something. I was like, "Yo, like I can't hear you. Like no puedo escucharte." Like I couldn't hear him. And he said in Spanish. He said like, "Are you a gringo?" And so I just laughed. I was like, "Yeah, I'm a gringo." And then so I kept going. But another thing in that neighborhood that was super awesome was they had like sound systems. Like people, it wasn't like they were playing like guitars through amplifiers. It was like they had like amplifiers, like full on stacks, and they would just play their like music through it. So it was like I don't know if it's like a Jamaican culture, but like sound systems, like things that just like literally like you put it on your front steps and it like rocks the whole block. But it's like these big like almost stylized like 80s arcade type things, like really weird. But a lot of people had those in the neighborhood, which was super cool. Anyway, so I got on my plane, everything was okay. The biggest thing with getting on the plane was seeing if I get my baggage into the baggage space that they said is legit for bringing on the plane. And I like barely managed to do that, so that was great. Got my guitar with me as well, which I didn't think I could do. And got on the plane, and the plane went from Cartagena to Orlando. And as soon as it was like landing in Orlando, my brain was just like, what is this? Like, just the amount of space in North America compared to South America was like mind blowing, and how like well organized everything was just like, what? So this was only in the airport, and of course seeing the people in the airport was interesting as well, because like hearing people speak English as the predominant language again, and just like the concerns and whatever of like North American tour traveling through airports is quite different than the world I've been living in South America. So then it connects to Houston, and at Houston it was like night when I got in, and I needed to find a way to get from the airport to my first Airbnb place. And so I think that was in like Fairview or something like that. I can't remember the name of the neighborhood, but it was like a little bit sort of like north of the center of Houston, closer to the airport. Managed to find a lady who had a van, and she took me, and she was like insane. Like I was actually like, I hope this lady doesn't kill me on this drive. But when I got there, it was cool. Talked to the couple who owns the Airbnb, and the guy's really interested in like the uni, like the Salar, the salt flats. So I was telling him a bit about that. I went to bed, and in the morning I had to switch hotels to something that was a bit cheaper and closer to the center of Houston. Not the center of Houston, but a little bit closer. And to do that, I had to carry all my bags like a kilometer and a half to like one bus stop, and like my arms were just like dying because I'm not very strong, and like I had to carry them all. So I get on the bus. It's Easter Sunday actually. This day is like Easter Sunday, so special service for the bus. Then make a connection, get on another bus, get off that bus, and had to walk like more than a kilometer and a half to my next Airbnb. And so my arms like were just dying, but whatever. I'm a wussy. Now that I've been lifting weights since I've been home, I'm huge. Anyway, so I get there, and the Airbnb was like this old lady who's like an artist, and I'll put up a picture of hers right now. She was actually really cool, like super cool artist from a different era, but interesting. Anyway, so then also that day I ran into Melissa. I walked down the TC Jester sort of green corridor to meet her, and that was less than ideal because her dog had just gotten this incident, and so she couldn't really hang out and be relaxed, but we hung out for a bit, and she dropped me off at Memorial Park, and from there I kind of wandered around. It's a nice spot there, and headed home. And then for the rest of the week in Houston, I basically like just tried to stay on top of like when my ship would be arriving with the car, and like when I could go pick the car up, because there's a process. You can't just like pick it up as soon as it arrives. There's some processing that needs to get done. But I wanted to get out of Houston. I wanted to get home. Running low on money by that point was like I don't want to just spend more time doing nothing. So what I did to make it cheaper was I researched all the possible camping sites I could do and how to get home the fastest. That's one thing I did. I wasn't able to bring my camping gear with my baggage from Cartagena, and the car had to be empty when it shipped. So I went to Walmart and price checked all the camping gear. It's super cheap there, man. Like I know Walmart's like the enemy, but it's like so cheap for stuff. I was able to get everything for camping for like I think like $60 or something like that. But other than that, I was also checking out a lot of Houston. So I went downtown a couple of times. There's some different photos down there. I did like this museum tour one day, and one thing that really blew my mind, apart from like North America being so spacious and everything organized and so low density of people compared to South America, was like to get to the museums I had to get off this train or this bus stop at a certain place, bus stop I guess at a certain place, and walk by the Greyhound station to get to the museum district. And as I approached like the Greyhound station, there were like so many, like homeless people, which happens in South America. We have homeless people in South America, but I feel like the hard drugs, like maybe the homeless people in South America can't afford them, because like walking by this Greyhound station, man, it was like people like lying on the ground, people like talking to telephone poles, people like twitching and shaking and stuff like this. And I wasn't like, I mean, I was disgusted, but not disgusted like, ooh, you guys are gross, but just like, why do we have this in North America? We have like so much luxury, like why is this happening here and this is not happening in South America, at least not to that degree. That was like what's up? Anyway, so I went to the museums, checked out some of those, that was cool, and headed back home. And I ended up being able to get my car earlier than I thought. I thought I was going to have to wait like an extra week, but I got it on a Friday. Getting down to Galveston to pick it up, because Galveston's the port, it's like super complicated. Like the transit in Houston, like they don't have transit from Houston to Galveston. Like you can't get a train, you can't get a bus, so I had to take like a airport shuttle to get down to Galveston. And managed to get the car out, everything was cool. It had a flat tire, so I changed the spare from my trunk in Galveston, and then drove back to the Airbnb in Houston, stayed the night there. And the next day, then on the way to town, I got an extra spare tire, so that was cool. And then hit the road for Holliday, Texas, the first camping spot. So that was Stonewall Jackson Campground, and it's like I think like a Confederate monument or something from back in the day. But essentially, it was just like a bunch of baseball fields and like an archery course, and just like you could camp there. It's a small city; they just let you camp there. So I set up my stuff, and it was sunny when I got there. Very green, that part of Texas, and then walked to the town. And the town was hilarious, like such a small little town, and like there's like these like outhouses, and then there's like this like cross-country church, and all this like just broke down stuff. There was like a church that had like one of those signs that's like electronic, and it had like YOLO Jesus and stuff like that. It was just hilarious. I think I ate dinner Dairy Queen or something like that, and as I was walking back, the sheriff drove by and he's like, "Is that your stuff out of the camping?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Totally cool, don't worry about it." So I go back to my stuff for the camping, and it's getting to be like night now, and I can just see the storms coming in, and also the forecast had been like there was going to be storms that night. So I just kind of stayed up, and I was like, should I put my tent underneath like a covering, or should I just leave it where it is? Studying the sky, and I was like, man, it's raining hard in some areas, but I don't know if it's going to come over our area. And also I could hear like animals and stuff, and I was like, the hogs, because you know in Texas they have hogs, right? So I was like, anyway, I went to bed, decided not to put my tent under the covering, and it ended up raining like crazy that night. But fortunately, my tent, totally waterproof, no problem. So I woke up in the morning, gorgeous sun. I probably have some photos of that in the morning, and then took off for the next campsite, which would be San John in New Mexico. Now, because I wasn't staying in hotels, I had no Wi-Fi or anything, so what I had to do in between was go to public libraries. So I went to the public library in Amarillo, Texas, and used them to get the instructions for the next campsite and all of that stuff to plan out my next leg. And as I was heading to Amarillo, you can really see the landscape change from like green Texas to that like sort of dry, dusty, Wild West Texas. And definitely getting to New Mexico, you see that as well. So anyway, so I get to San John, which is this like little tiny, almost like ghost town. It used to be a stop on Route 66. Now Route 40 and Route 66 are parallel, but San John was actually on Route 66, and it's not really a place anymore. So I guess what they did to drum up a little bit of business for their remaining businesses in the city was they put their city park as a free camping spot. So I set up my stuff there, and I just walked sort of down ghost town Route 66, and man, like, yeah, I talked about in my Buenos Aires videos about how like that sort of like ruins those gods, that architecture, mythology might be gone, but being in the USA, like the broke down Wild West USA, like that's a super dry USA, I was like feeling it big time. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So anyway, went to bed. In the morning it was like freezing cold, so I got up, packed up my stuff, and headed to the next spot, which was going to be Grants or El Maipe's in New Mexico, up in the mountains. But on the way I stopped at a library in Moriarte, and nothing special there, just planning it out, but I saw this book, The Talisman, which was a book I had read when I was probably in grade 7. It's a Stephen King, Peter Straub book. So it's fantasy, it's not really horror. And in the book, the main character is like this boy. He kind of goes between two worlds. And there's this spot that he goes to that, I can't remember if it was like Astoria or what it was. I can't remember it exactly, but for me, what I was telling you about Cartagena being this weird thing that was in my memory when I was in Buenos Aires, but I couldn't remember what it was. And then going back there, it definitely reminded me of The Talisman, like the way there was like this alternate reality, alternate world that kind of like linked everything. And Cartagena might kind of make sense for that, because it's like the link between South America and Central America. It's like there's a gap there. It's like, anyway, I won't go into any further, but that was at the Moriarte Public Library. And then I got to Grants or El Maipe in New Mexico, and it's definitely up in the mountains now. So I go up there, and I get to the campsite, and it's a Bureau of Land Management campsite, and it's full, but I was still able to put my tent in and park my car. and then I headed straight to this monument area called the Sandstone Bluff. So I have some video of that. Gorgeous. Again, in the southwest United States, amazing landscape, so cool. So hopefully in this video you can see some of that. It was great to be in that environment again. And I walked back from there kind of at night to get back to my campsite, and no problems, got in my tent, slept. In the morning it was super windy and my tent like blew away. It's funny, I got it of course, but like it blew away and I had to pick it up. And then I got out of there before the park ranger could come and be like, hey, you weren't staying in an official campsite. So anyway, so I got out of there, it was all good. And the next day I'd be heading to Flagstaff to see Seth and yeah, be in my old stomping grounds again.